Hey everyone, this is your Hairapy session with Emily. I'm your host, Emily Mazur, aka Portland Hairstylist. I've said this over and over again about how fortunate I am to meet so many amazing individuals from doing this show. I've had this podcast for almost a year with 23 episodes under my belt, and I've learned so much about my Portland community. There is diversity in Portland. You just have to look for it, and you have to put effort and a willingness to be humble and to have conversations. I've been licensed since 2006, and there are still things that I'm not familiar with in the hair industry. But this is what I love about doing the show. Me learning and discovering new ideas, techniques, having the opportunity of listening to another's story, and sharing it with all of you. Before I reach out to an individual for this show, I do my homework. I check out their websites, any articles that I can find online. I ask around about them, and also, of course, check out their Instagram feed. I look for who they are. In one IG post, Dakima Maria was telling a client about an incident she had with an older gentleman that was outside of her salon. He wasn't a client. On her story, she explained this older man looked like he needed help. He told her, "I'm just trying to be careful. I don't want to fall." She then asked if she could take him home. 1 week after that, he had booked a haircut with her. At the closing of her story, she had said, "You never know who you can bless, so please be kind to somebody. It's your turn." And when I saw that, I was like, I need to know this lady. I want to know her. Dakima is not only a veteran at hair, having 2 salons, one in Vancouver, Washington, and one in Las Vegas. She also has her own wig and makeup line, and she's so much more than just a stylist behind the chair. She's also an incredible mother of 5. So please enjoy this great conversation that I had with Dakima Maria. Interview on Tuesday, March 16th of 2021. And by the way, guys, she's in freaking Hawaii on a business trip. All right, guys, I am with Dakima Maria, and she is in Hawaii right now.
Aloha.
Aloha! See, I have a freaking beanie. I have like my cut-off jean jacket. It's still not that warm over here.
Well, you still look good.
Oh, thank you. So do you. So, from what we were talking
Thank
before,
you.
you are actually on a business trip, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. How long are you staying?
I'll be here until Thursday.
And what island are you at?
Maui.
Oh, God. That's one of my favorites. I love that. Is that your first time to Hawaii or?
It is,
Oh,
actually.
man.
It won't be my last.
No, just enjoy it.
Yes.
So guys, well, I use Instagram quite a bit, and I found out about Dakima when you liked a post of Unique on an episode that I did for episode 14 of the podcast. And then when I started going on your social media, I saw your book. So I was like, okay, she has a book. I saw her making wigs. She makes wigs. And then I saw that you work both in Vancouver and Vegas. And then I was like, okay, shit, I need to know this woman. I need to know her. But before we get into, and we had a conversation, and you were so sweet and nice and open, and it's like, I love people like that, because I'm like that, and it feels good.
Yeah.
So before we get into all that, can we first talk about like your childhood and how you got into hair? Because you have a home in Washougal, but you work in Vegas, but you're also originally from Detroit.
Absolutely. Yes. So my childhood was very challenging. Um, Growing up, I am the middle child of three children, and my dad was very abusive, uh, where my family had to move back and forth on many occasions. So it was just very challenging as a child to just stay focused or
Mhm.
comprehend things just because we were always in a frantic.
Mhm. And is that why you were having trouble with school, like in high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were talking earlier. Now you started getting into doing hair like at the age of 14, is that right?
Yeah, I was actually younger, but when I actually started doing others' hair, um, taking clients from high school, I was 14, and people would fill up my kitchen or my basement, and we would do ponytails, flat irons. We did all types of styles, and if we look back at those pictures, woo,
Was
so
what
cute.
when you did the flat irons, was that with the Marcells? Those
Yes,
hot tools with the oven?
yeah,
Oh man. I
yeah,
remember, yeah, they were talking about that in my beauty school. Those
yeah.
um what happened after that? So 14, you started kind of doing clients, and then 16, you ended up dropping out of high school.
Well, see, because of my childhood, I fought a lot in school. Um, I wasn't a bully, but I wasn't going to be bullied, and I didn't like to see other people get
Mhm.
bullied. So I always was in the middle of something. Because of what was going on at home, it bothered me tremendously. So by the age of 14, moving into our home that I had to go to a judge to and ask him if my sister and I, can purchase it because it was too challenging living in a home with my dad.
Mhm.
And we didn't want to be taken from my mom and get put into foster care.
Mhm.
And so, in doing that, I decided that I couldn't comprehend like things. It was just so much still just I couldn't sleep at night. I
Mhm.
couldn't think. Um, and I tried so hard when I got to high school, and I could remember a teacher, and it was actually a swimming teacher. Uh, he gave me an F because I was chewing gum.
Mhm.
I was a swimmer, so I could swim in deep. I did really good. And I went to try to talk to my mom about it, but she worked so much that she wasn't able to come
Mhm.
up and talk to them. And that really hurt me that I had to leave out of that class with the
Mhm.
F, knowing that I was A status.
Mhm.
So I just said, forget it. I'm tired. I have so much going on at home when my mom was struggling with the bills. I had to work, then go to school and deal with that too. I was emotionally distraught.
What did you do after that?
Well, I went and tried to attend cosmetology school.
Okay. Which we were talking about before. Back then, could you get a degree in cosmetology and not have a high school diploma?
Yeah, so I was able to go to cosmetology school, and then that would be some type of um, accredited something
Mm,
towards my high school. So that's what I was
okay.
trying to do, which
What?
was it was fine. It was just that it was still overwhelming.
Mhm.
Like it was all of it was still too much.
Mm. And did you feel at that time you had a passion for hair?
I felt like I knew that hair was something I was born to do,
Mm.
but understanding the passion part of it, I didn't get that until I was in a situation when I was older.
And then what happened after that? What did you start doing?
Well, I was dating a guy that one of my brother's girlfriends, it was her nephew, and I was dating him, and we decided to get married. And getting married, I gave birth to 5 kids in our union.
And
And
and you got
go
married
ahead.
at 19.
Yeah, so that was at the age of 19. So in between that time of dating him and working and still doing hair, I was just striving,
Mhm.
working hard.
Where did you work at?
I worked at KFC, McDonald's, and I still did hair.
Okay. How would you do it at your house or would you go to people's houses doing hair?
Well, I went to senior citizens,
Oh,
the senior citizen places,
uh,
and I did their hair, and I also did it at my home still.
so you've already, like, just talking with a few times before, it's like you have a very giving heart.
Yeah, I actually, my heart is so giving because what I realized today, of course, I didn't know it when I was younger, but what I realized today is I give the way I've always desired to be loved.
Mm, I like that. Now, you're still in Detroit at this time, is that right?
Yes.
How
Hmm.
did you end up making the move to Vegas and why?
Well, I've been married for many years, and I have found out so many occasions that it was infidelity
Mm,
in my marriage. I kept trying to make the marriage work, but unfortunately, I didn't want my girls growing up believing that that was the lifestyle that was conducive for them because
mhm,
they're better than that. And so was I. But my concern at the time was how was it going to affect my kids if I divorced their dad?
mhm,
Because as a dad, he was a great man as a dad.
mhm,
But far as relationship, it's just he and I didn't make it. And so I asked him if it was okay if I took the kids to Las Vegas. And when I first asked him, he said no.
mhm.
And then he came back to me a few days later and he said, of course, I can take them. And so we left. I set my children down and I explained to them that I needed to make a difference. So let me say this, just before I was leaving, I had been in school for fashion design. Now, mind you,
Mhm.
I didn't have my GED yet or anything. And I went to school for fashion design in Troy, Michigan. And I found out that it was another school in Las Vegas after the school from Troy sent me to Las Vegas for it was like a school magic show.
Mm,
And that was like a few years back. So I'm kind of like going back a little bit. But after I went there that year, I kept saying, and I think that was like 2006 at that time. So I didn't relocate to Las Vegas until 2008. But what I saw there was, oh, I can probably do well with my fashion
mhm,
if I go over to Las Vegas. So now that's 2006. Now back to current. The 2008 move with the approval of my children's father and the strive of me trying to change my life, I went with the plan to stay with a friend, which actually didn't work.
mhm. And that was, you said that there was a part where you were kind of homeless for a few days, is that right?
Yeah, so what happened was I had already made plans to stay with a friend. And once we arrived, she told me that her landlord said that we couldn't stay there.
Mm,
So now we had already made the plan for a month to give me enough time to look for a place. So at this point, I didn't know what to do. Well, we ended up finding out that I had an aunt there who's now deceased, rest her soul, um, and an uncle. And they met me, um, introduced me to a guy, and he had an available home.
oh, that's
And
great.
yeah, in that home, they allowed my children and I to stay there for 7 months with no charge.
Mhm. Now, were you in fashion school during this time?
Well, I didn't get back in school right away. So that was
Okay.
the plan. So the plan was to leave there to go to school, but I couldn't get back in school just due to the fact that I was trying to survive.
Mhm.
So that's what I was, that was reason why I mentioned it was because in 2006, I saw that there were some opportunities in Las
Mhm.
Vegas for me. But by 2008, when I got there and realized that life happened, I didn't, there was no way I can focus on school at that time and try to maintain.
And where did you end up working at?
So I ended up working at Walmart, and I also ended up working at a school. It was like a preschool though, where I was a teacher's assistant.
Oh, that's
And
really
so
sweet.
I worked midnights at Walmart, and then I'll get up and go to the school in the morning from 8
Mhm.
to 4.
So really not a lot of sleep.
No.
And so how did you make that transition? Did you go to school after that? Like while you were working at Walmart and then the preschool and then getting your life together?
Yeah, so what I decided to do was to let the school go first so that I can go back to school. So I stopped working at the preschool so that I can go back to school. And in my orientation in school, they told me that we weren't allowed to miss a day of school or it can cause us to not get our cosmetology license, just all of these different things. So I wanted to be dedicated. So I worked at Walmart for a while longer, but then after a while, I couldn't do both. I couldn't keep going to school and still working those midnight hours because schooling was so challenging because of me having to focus.
Mhm. And when did you make the switch? Because before you wanted to go to fashion school and then now you're in cosmetology school. How come you did you finish fashion school at all or no?
So I did go back to fashion school, but I did not finish. So
Okay.
I ended up going back to fashion school in Las Vegas. And when I found out that they were closing down, I shut
Mm,
down. So
okay.
I didn't graduate. So, but I still design clothes.
I know.
But back to school, I had to make a decision about my life.
Mhm.
Fashion is something that I love to do, but it's not going to bring me immediate money.
Mhm.
Like it's not going to bring me that capital right there. So I had to think, how can I provide for my children? Well, with all of the hours that I was working, I was just thinking like, if I go back to school and get my cosmetology license, I don't have to work so hard. And yet, this is what I love to do. So I did a 10-year plan. And the way I broke it up was within 10 years, I'm going to be ABC, but I'm going to
Mhm.
start here. And fashion has to be put on the back burner. And my kids' sports and me going to school was first.
Okay. Now what so for beauty school, how long was the program?
1 year.
Okay. And you graduated at the top of your class, right?
I did. Yeah,
And you actually spoke to a graduating class after you. Is that right?
absolutely. Yes.
And then where did you end up doing hair?
Well, I first went to a salon called Jubilee, which
Mhm.
was Lutheran. And I worked there for a while. And my mentor thought that I should work at a place where I can learn more. So I ended up transferring over to another place. Um, the name of that salon, I think it's Diva Salon. And so they would do training and all of that. So that was the next one. And then I end up just saying, I really like the independent contracting because
Mhm.
I get to make my own schedule. And so I went back to doing hair on my own.
Is that now I was trying to remember, is that a solo salon that you went to in Vegas?
No, not for years.
Okay.
I'm in a solo now, but not for years. I work as just an independent contractor at different salons.
Okay. Who was your majority client? What type of hair was are your clients?
Oh, African American, the majority.
In
Um,
Vegas and in Vancouver?
well, in Vancouver, yeah, I'm going to say the majority of them
Okay.
are. African American, but I have a very mixed clientele, so it is very diverse. So I have Caucasian, I have Asian, I have very different diversities.
Now, when you're in Vegas, you're an independent contractor. Um, was this the time that your son was going to Portland during the summer?
So my son did. I had both of my sons went to Atlanta every summer.
Okay.
It wasn't until my son's senior year that we decided to allow my son to live with one of my cousins for his senior year with their son.
And that was in Portland.
Yes.
Would you ever go visit him during the summer?
When he would go to Atlanta,
Or
what do you
when you
mean?
guys would go to Portland, when he'd go to Portland, did you ever go
Uh,
and visit too?
oh, when my son went, I moved there.
Okay. How many years was he going to Portland when you decided to make the move?
It was no years.
Oh,
My
okay.
son had been going back and forth with my cousins to Atlanta, and then they relocated to Portland. And
Oh,
when they
okay.
relocated to Portland, my son, we decided for my son to go since it was only girls in our home now. My other son had graduated already. And so once we said that, then I decided that I was going to get a job in Portland and move to Portland so that I can be with him too, but yet give him the opportunity to have fellas around him.
And did your daughters, they were still pretty young, so they followed you, right?
Yeah, well, I had a 10th grader and an 11th
Okay.
grader at the time.
Now, we were talking earlier, pretty much your goal, which it's not anymore, was to let go of doing hair in Vegas and then focus majority in Portland, right?
Yes.
But
hmm
that didn't happen. And you've been traveling back and forth for how many years?
Since 2016.
Yeah. It's hard to let go of those clients. You build a relationship with people, it's hard to let go.
Yeah, and I look at my work as a ministry more so than anything else
Mm,
because we go through so much in life outside that when you come in to get your hair done, you need a peaceful place and a place
mhm.
where you can
Yep.
just be feel free to be you.
Yeah. Now, when you moved to Portland, where did you start working at? What salon did you find?
So I started off at Dosha.
Okay. And this is the Dosha in Beaverton. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we were talking about this before. It was not nearly as diverse as Vegas.
Not nearly.
How did you feel about that?
Well, personally, it didn't bother me about the way it was set up. What
Hmm.
bothered me was um, the fact that the way I was treated was, I don't want to say I was treated less than, because it wasn't
Hmm.
so much as a less than attitude, it was a control. Like they wanted to control everything that I did, even on the outside. And so, what I mean by that is, one of my managers came to me and said that I could no longer go to Las Vegas. And
Hmm.
I believe that she thought that I was going to say, okay. But for me, whatever I do outside of my work is my
Hmm.
business. And so I told her, unfortunately, that's not going to work. And then I guess she reported to one of the owners. And when I went to meet with the owner, what made me decide that that place wasn't for me was the fact that he asked me, why did I feel like I needed to be a superwoman? Because I dressed up every day, and other people wore leggings and
Hmm.
t-shirts. I'm not them, and I enjoy being professional.
Hmm. Now, question about your clientele. Did you have very many African American women at the Beaverton Dosha?
No, it was no. I had some, but they were my clients that followed me from my cousin.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then how long were you working at Dosha and then you decided to move to a different salon?
Well, I had just made it through my 3 months,
Okay.
and I was gonna go on, but then I decided I had to leave there.
And this is when you found out about Jaya Rose.
Right. So
Okay.
one of my girlfriends had been telling me about her stylist, which was unique, who actually worked at J. Rose at the time. And she kept telling me about that because she saw what I was going through. She would,
Yeah.
come in and she would see what I was going through. And I decided to give it a try.
Now, we were talking earlier, so you were kind of apprehensive because Jaya Rose is an all black salon or was, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Hmm.
so it's all black salon. And then also you were worried about the stylist possibly being whitewashed. So can you
Right.
go into that?
Yes. So what I noticed about Portland that's really different is a lot of Black people, um, and I'm not going to put this on everyone, but
Hmm.
some of the people that I've met don't appreciate the fact that they're Black,
Hmm.
and that's my opinion because the way they act is in a way where they're too good to talk to me because I'm Black, or shun. You just don't know what to expect. But at Jared Rose, they didn't have that at all.
So did you contact the owner first or how did
Yes.
okay.
Hmm.
Um did you meet her in her salon or what happened? Like how did you guys connect?
Yes, we met in the salon. The interview went very well. She was very professional, and I just felt like that was going to be my home. And
And it
so I
felt
decided, go
and if
ahead.
oh well I was going to say when you walk into a place you can feel it
Yes.
if it's going to work or
Hmm.
not. So you felt it.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
That's great.
Hmm.
Now tell me about your experience at J.A. Rose. How long did you work there?
So I worked at Darrow's for about 3.5 years. Darrow's was really great. I mean, my experience there was nice. I was able to go into work and just enjoy working and leaving and building is what I was doing. I mean, I built and I don't know, I just enjoyed it. Work was good.
And how many stylists did you work with?
Um, I'm gonna say it was probably about 14 of us in
Wow.
total.
See,
Hmm.
I haven't contacted the owner of J.A. Rose. I don't know why I thought it was a little bit smaller, but they're definitely somebody I want on the show.
Oh yeah, she'll be great. They'll both be great, her and her husband.
Now, when did you and you at this time you were still traveling to Vegas. So how many days a week would you go to Vegas? And then how many days would you be behind the chair at J.A. Rose?
So every other week at that time, I was going to Vegas and I would stay for like 3 days or
Okay.
4 days, sometimes two. It just really depends on how many clients I have.
Got it. And then how cuz you fill your books pretty tight, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have an assistant over there to help you out at all in Vegas?
In Vegas, no.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
but you do have one here.
Yes.
Okay. Um
Hmm.
so you were at J Rose for 3.5 years. How did you make that decision to move to your own solo salon in Vancouver?
It was just time. You
Hmm.
know how you can feel that it's time for you to walk out. I needed
Yeah.
something new, and it was time for me to walk in it. I mean, I was gonna still try to work at JL Rose and still do my salons, but it was so much I couldn't
Hmm.
do it. So I decided to just focus on building Dakima Maria.
How was that really scary at first to go to a solo salon?
It was absolutely really scary because I hadn't told anybody that I was moving or anything. I had gotten my own salon, and COVID hit right after I had signed my paperwork and everything.
It takes a lot of courage to go out on your own. I know for myself, like I worked at 77 for 5 years, and I don't have my own salon, but even moving to a different salon, I'm like, "Oh my god, none of my clients are gonna follow me. I'm not gonna get booked. I suck." You know what I mean? Like, all this, like, "Okay, wait a minute. No, you're fine, Emily, you're fine. Your clients will follow you. You're fine." So,
Right. Yes. And they do follow you. So always remember the people that's there that's supposed to sit in your chair will sit in your chair.
yeah, yeah. And for the solo salon, you actually oh, well, first of all, how did you find the one in Vancouver?
I just looked it up and went and met with the lady who owns it. And
What was the reason? Because there are solo salons in Portland. So what was the reason for you to get one in Vancouver?
because I live in Washougal,
Okay.
Washington, which is Vancouver is just a little bit closer to me.
Okay,
Hmm.
got it. And you just celebrated your 1 year anniversary at the solo
Anniversary.
salon. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I did. Yes.
That's great. Do you know a lot of the other stylists in the other studios there?
I don't. And I think that it's just because of COVID. I know a few
Okay.
people and they're very kind. So when we all walk out, we speak. And I know a few people. Well, one young lady that's in the very front, she's always purchasing some of my Dakima Maria makeup, or she
Oh,
wants to buy a garment, or so yeah.
that's so sweet. Um, Now tell me where you're at now, because now, I mean, you've you're you've done a lot. You are still doing a lot. Um, you have gotten into a cosmetic line, and you also have a hairline and synthetic hairline for wigs. When did you get
Well, my
into the?
synthetic hair is just for braiding.
Oh,
My
okay.
human hair is what I make the units with. Yeah.
Now, when did you start doing the wigs?
So let me just tell you, when I was homeless, I used to sit the wig stand on my steering wheel and make wigs for one client that I had that would buy wigs from me. And I really, in my heart,
Mm,
believe that she only bought these wigs because she knew that I needed some money.
mm.
Like, and she has them to this day. I mean, she's probably bought, I don't know, maybe 15. But yeah, I started off then when I moved to Las Vegas, and I made them before, but it wasn't a focus of mine. But when
Mhm.
I moved to Las Vegas and I didn't have a place to stay, it became a focus of mine.
And then that's just kind of grown.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how many clients do you have? Or do people purchase online, or do they actually come into the chair?
A lot of times people purchase with me.
Okay.
You can go online and it has like where you can book for a custom unit, but that's going to be just a consultation and a quote. That's just a starting price, just depending on what it is that a person wants. But majority of my clients, they're referred to me. They sit in my chair and they talk with me. So we do a consultation first,
Oh,
and then
okay.
I'll create the unit. Hmm.
And now, because I was saying that I was kind of getting into wigs because I want to color them. Are your
Yeah,
wigs lace front, or are they non-lace front?
all of mine are lace front.
Okay. So that's
Hmm.
something I know I wanted to ask you later about, like
Yeah, of
questions
course.
like
Absolutely. I don't mind at all.
that. What about, so how did you get into your cosmetic line?
Well, I've always wanted to do hair, fashion, makeup. And so everything takes time. And so what I'm learning is you start somewhere. You
Hmm.
create a plan and you start. You have a vision, but you have to have a start. And so for me, I've had a vision for many years, but with my start, I had 5 children.
Hmm.
So what people didn't understand was it's not that I was needy or was a taker. I had 5 children where my life couldn't go forward until after I finished focusing on them. And now that my youngest have graduated from high school, it's for me time for me to still explore, learn who I am, what do I like, continue to do my passion and build, but more than anything, invest wisdom into my children and others.
Mhm. Where do you see yourself going now?
I've been thinking about that, like, I love my life. So I'm just like, I've been making vision boards and plans, and I'm like, oh, can I think a little bit? Because everything I've ever wanted, I have. I think that it's just amazing to me that God can take this broken little girl,
Hmm.
grow her up into this woman who always had all of these desires. But in the time where I was going through so much, I didn't see anything changing for me. But yet it was changing all the time
Isn't
because
that,
I was planting seeds.
yeah, isn't that funny? For me, I would get pissed off and frustrated when things didn't work out. Like I wanted to lease for so long. Well, it took me 6 years to finally start leasing. And I
Yeah,
looked back and it's like, holy shit, like I've actually learned a lot. I've gone through a lot. And you don't
yes,
appreciate it then, until later.
yes, yes,
And things
right.
ha-
You're right.
and the things happen at the time that they need it to happen. You can try and force it and push it, but that's just going to make you frustrated. And I truly believe that the things that you want will happen in your life, just not at the time that you really want it. Sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now you're enjoying yourself in Hawaii on work.
Yes. Yes.
Now, are you going to go back to Vancouver after this, or are you going to Vegas?
So I am going back to Vancouver for one day. I'm
Okay.
going to work and then I fly out for Vegas.
And where are your kiddos at now?
So I have three of them that's in Washington right now
Okay.
and two that's in Detroit.
The three that live in Washington, do they live with you?
Yeah, well, I have two that live with me, but my son is never there.
Yeah.
And then my other son, he's in college in Forest Grove.
Oh, that's
hmm
great. That's
So he's really in Oregon. He just comes home with me on his break.
okay. How do you now tell me about before we kind of close? I want to know what your self-care is.
Well, self care for me is taking time in my early mornings, praying,
Hmm.
spending a little bit of time with God every single day, just asking God to give me the understanding of how to direct my day. Then I love traveling. So just sitting down and relaxing and reading a book, or I don't need any noise. I can sit
Hmm.
here and listen to this water all day. I'm gonna actually show you guys the water while
God,
I'm
it's
here. Let me see
beautiful.
if I could just turn this around.
Uh, that's so
I mean, this
gorgeous.
right here, and even though it's work for me, I am enjoying this.
Mm.
And in me enjoying this, I mean, this is what I want for others. I just want people to just be where they want to be, whatever that is.
Hmm. And what about time for your kids? Because you're saying that your kids blow up your phone all the time, right?
They're blowing up my phone right now. So my kids, I talk to them basically every day.
Oh,
But more than anything, we have a relationship where my kids can talk to me about anything. And the
hmm.
reason why they can talk to me about anything is because I understand life. And when they were younger, trust me, I did not know how to be the best parent. But
Hmm.
today, I understand that I've fallen short in so many areas and I've had to get back up again. And so I'm teaching them that it's okay if you fall, but you just can't stay down.
Hmm.
I'm not going to try to control what they're doing. I'm just going to embrace them with love.
I love that. I think um, the the thing that's most important to me with my kids is I'm not going to coddle them and hold their hand all the time, but I
hmm
do want them to know that I will be there for them no matter what.
That's real.
Yeah,
That's the
it's like I'm
truth.
there. I'm there.
Yes. And the
So,
one thing they know is that I'm there for them. They
yeah.
call me all the time.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. What advice do you have for hairstylists just starting out or individuals thinking about going into the beauty industry?
The first thing I would like to say is becoming a cosmetologist or a hairstylist in that field is not something that's going to just come to you. You have to get up and figure out what's your plans for your future with your work. A lot of times I've seen students graduate and don't do anything with their license. Well, what I did when I graduated was I made water bottles and put my face on it with my number and said you can make a hair appointment. And I took them around and handed
Mm,
them out to people. Today, I don't know if that's something that can be done, but it's something that can be done that would benefit a client or attract them to want to come and see you.
mm-hmm,
So my thing is don't give up. Don't give up on what you feel like you were born to do, and don't allow the situation that's at hand to stop you from moving forward. If you wake up in the morning and you really don't know what to do, I don't know your beliefs, but whatever it is, take a moment of silence. Mine is prayer.
mm-hmm,
And if you would just do that and continue to create your vision, your plan, make it plain to yourself what you do want and actually what you don't want. You can say
mm-hmm,
the things that you don't want so you can know what not to fall into and create boundaries. But one thing for sure, it takes work to
mm-hmm.
become a successful stylist.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at dakimamaria.com, or you can even email me at dakimamaria@gmail.com. I'm in Vancouver, Solar Salon. I'm also in Las Vegas, Centennial Hills, Solar Salon. And if you go online, it'll keep you updated with all of my information. And if you want to come in just to have a little love, just come talk to me.
You guys, I'm serious. That's true. I went to her solo salon in Vancouver and I'm like, oh man, I could just hang out with you.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And guys, I'll have information as well on my website, which is www.hairapy.salon. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later, okay?
Okay. Bye.
Well, that was my absolutely great conversation with Dakima. You guys, she is so sweet and really amazing, truly inspiring, and just so open. I know for sure I want to stay connected with her. So, and I've said this about Lexi. So, Dakima, I know you're super busy, but I would definitely love to be friends with you. So, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. If you guys would like to know more about Dakima Maria, you can check out her website at www.dakimamaria.com, as well as her IG at authentically_Dakima Maria. You can also find more information on my own website at www.hairapy.salon. Well, that's it for now. So be safe, be healthy, and above all, be hopeful. This is your Hairapy Session with Emily. I'm your host, Emily Mazur, aka Portland Hairstylist. Show written by Emily Mazur, sponsored by Ziba Hub. Ziba Hub, a beauty app where you can find jobs, explore events, and build community. And editing by 127 Media House.